Ready?
Hit it!
Hello everyone and welcome to Twice Nightly the podcast with Maria Lovelady
and Michael Alan-Bailey, a podcast that aims to bring everything variety out of the wings and into the limelight.
So what are we waiting for?
Let's raise the curtain
And start the show! Coming up on today's show, we talk to the boys from Brick Lane.
We talk Pipe Dream sequels.
And find out which iconic variety performer performed their last show on the Brick Lane stage. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to have you with us again. Now, following on from last week, we gave you a little teaser and we talked about speaking to the boys from Brick Lane. And this week, we've got them. We've got the boys from Brick Lane and we're going to be chatting to them very, very shortly. But Maria, you come fresh. Well, I say fresh.
I'm not very fresh.
You come, what's the word that's not so fresh? Stale?
Well, to tie in with Halloween month, I feel a bit like a zombie today because I have just come from watching the fabulous show at Brick Lane and it was absolutely fantastic, but it turned into a bit of a wild one, as things normally do, as regular listeners of the podcast will know. And it was a very wonderful evening, started off with a gorgeous 3-course meal and it was all very classy and tasteful with our lovely wine. And then that wine turned into about 16 bottles or something like that. And the whole thing ended up with us doing a nice kick line to New York with the cast and everybody in the room, like at the end of the night, which is my perfect kind of night, to be honest, but it doesn't lead to a perfect day the next day.
I'm going to grass you up a little bit here and I'm going to tell the listeners that actually we're recording this a day later than we should have done because you had such a good night. The night was that good that we had to delay recording.
Isn't that a good sign? Because you were going to listen to Jack and Jordan today, who are the boys from Brick Lane, and you're going to hear them talking about the fabulous show. And I can confirm that it was as every good as bit as it sounds. And the fact that we're recording a day late is the proof of that, isn't it?
It's a testament. I think every performer wants to hear that your show knocked people out the next day. What was your highlight? What was the highlight of the show for you?
Oh, that's really difficult because I think because it was a variety show, there were so many different highlights. I mean, the singing on them. Jack did Great Balls of Fire and went into this absolutely amazing tap dance break in the middle of Great Balls of Fire, which was unbelievable and very unexpected. Jordan's voice is honestly just like buttery, silky, smoothie, gorgeous voice. And I think he's got the bluest eyes I've ever seen on stage. I don't know what it was. He had this blue jacket on and I kept telling him at the end of the night, oh my God, your eyes. I think he was like, calm down. But honestly, that's really was something amazing. Vincent, who runs and established Brick Lane Music Hall, he was hysterical. He was so funny. He did the Danny LaRue section. He was doing the comedian. He was being an MC. Like he was the showman that held the whole thing together.
You sent me as well an amazing picture because Jack and Jordan mentioned in the episode that they've got Danny LaRue's original costumes on display and you were sending me photos. They looked incredible. My biggest disappointment about the whole night is that I wasn't there.
Oh, I know, but you will be, and hopefully we'll all go at some point because there's so much happening going on at Brick Lane. They've got a wartime show coming up. They've got their Christmas show. They've got Panto. There's so much happening at Brick Lane, and we won't talk too much about it because Jack and Jordan really do sum everything up much better than me in the episode. But it really was a fabulous night, and I'm so grateful that I got to go.
Talking about fabulous nights, we've got Halloween coming up, and a couple of weeks ago we talked about our excitement for Hocus Pocus 2. Now it's out, we've seen it. I feel as though when a film comes out that's you've been waiting for and building up for so long, it's a funny feeling, isn't it?
Well, 30 years we've been waiting for it.
Well, literally 30 years, but I can't believe that now, sat here, I've seen it. You know what I mean? Isn't it a funny feeling when you've actually watched it?
I found it funny because I've had so many people text me and go, what did you think of it? As though I'm some sort of Hocus Pocus expert that it needs my seal of approval, like I'm the Guardian or something like that. But what did you think of it, Mike?
Oh, I was just going to say, well, on that note, what did you think of it?
I really liked it.
You loved it, didn't you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I sat there for 2 hours and I had a good time. I never expected it to be as good as the first one. And I think a lot of people were expecting it to be the same or in the same vein, but I just think the world's changed so much now. I just don't think there's any way that it was going to be the same. So for what it was, like, I really enjoyed the beginning of them being kids. I thought the acting of the three of them was exactly the same as the first one. Yes, it wasn't as scary and it definitely wasn't as camp, but I did have a good time.
Oh, I thought it was more camp in a way, because the original was camp, because I feel like they weren't going for camp in the original, where they actually, there's a very strong storyline and stuff in the original, whereas this was a little bit more satirical, and they were playing up to the fact that, you know, everybody wants the campness from the original. So I don't know, I felt like it was slightly more camp. It's one of those things where so many people cry out for sequels, and then as soon as they get a sequel, they go, well, it wasn't as good as the original. And it's like, well, what did you want? What did you expect?
Yeah.
Are there any other films in that vein, possibly like from our childhood nostalgia films, that you think there could be a sequel to?
Ooh.
Do you know what somebody mentioned on Twitter the other day? They said, now that we've had Hocus Pocus 2, I think it's time for Death Becomes Her 2. And I couldn't agree more.
I saw that and I think that would be amazing.
Well, there's so many possibilities. They didn't die. Well, they did die, but they didn't die.
Just stick themselves back together and walk around.
Exactly.
Flaking and falling apart.
Exactly. Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and Isabella Rossellini all still look incredible and are still going strong and are still so active and so funny and still making films. So it's like, that to me seems like a perfect opportunity.
That is a good shout. I definitely think I would watch a sequel of that. And Bruce Willis. Yeah,
of course.
Oh, did he die?
He did die in the film, but
he could come back.
I suppose he could come back. There's ways.
Yeah.
Are there any films that you're glad have never had a sequel?
Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
I think that was just perfect as it was.
Yeah, I always think the same, because I know that there were sequels in the works for years for Mrs. Doubtfire, and I'm glad that there was never a sequel to that.
Really? Yeah, no, me too.
There was a lot of potential sequel ideas for that one, but I do think that's another film that is just absolutely perfect as a standalone.
I feel like in that era, because it was before, like now where like all the series are the rage, aren't they? And no one really watches standalone films and goes to the cinema, or not everybody. It's not as big as it was. I feel like, you know, in that era, people did just make like 1.5 to 2 hour movies that just had like a full world and a nice tie up at the end, and that was it. And that the message of the story was delivered, and you got it. And now everyone wants more, but sometimes you don't need it.
Absolutely. Well, talking about Bette Midler sequels, you know that there was supposed to be a sequel to The First Wives Club, and all three actresses were really passionate. You know, Goldie Hawn, Diane Keaton, and Bette Midler all wanted to do a sequel to The First Wives Club, and the studio said no because they wouldn't bump up their money to match the male stars of the time.
Oh my God.
Bette Midler said that they wanted to do a sequel, but they said, we'll only do it if you match our salaries to the likes of, you know, Tom Cruise and Bruce Willis and Tom Hanks and people who, you know, the male box office stars at the time, because First Wives Club was a big hit, and it, you know, it did really, really well, but they wouldn't do it. Isn't that ridiculous?
That is mad in hindsight, because again, if that came out, if they did a sequel now to First Wives Club, everyone would go crazy for it. That's one of those films, hasn't it, that's almost got more popular as time's gone on, and it's like got this cult status now, like Hocus Pocus. I think you have these films that have just been sort of adopted by a certain group of people, and they're just absolutely loved to death.
And the messages in these films, I think, were quite ahead of their time, really. They deal with issues that we're still talking about now, except now I feel like we've got a much wider tolerance for what those messages are. And I think we've got a wider awareness in a way that maybe there wasn't back then. But I mean, amazing that those films were kicking down the doors.
But interesting that they were making this like real, what felt like a feminist piece about the First Wives Club, and that women were worth just as much as men and all of this, but actually the producers weren't putting the money where their mouths were.
Exactly. Well, let's hope that they're all getting the millions of pounds they deserve now.
Oh.
What did you think of the song? We talked about the song choice. What did you think of it?
I loved it. I really enjoyed
it.
And I thought it was interesting because obviously you saw me do The Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz at Easter, and one way or another was my song, and I sung that and I Put a Spell on You, which is obviously from the first Hocus Pocus, which is one of the reasons why I took the job. And I think Bet must have been in the audience watching me and thinking,
clearly some Disney exec was sat in Runcorn watching you.
Thinking, I'm only going to do it if I sing what Maria sung.
I do feel like there was a kind of Sarah Jessica Parker-esque physicality to your performance as the Wicked Witch.
Really?
I did actually, yeah. Because you were very bouncy, you were very physical, it was very movement motivated.
I was very bouncy.
And I don't know whether you did that on purpose or whether you just naturally exude SJP energy.
I think I've probably just absorbed so much of it over the years, watching everything that she's been in, that it's just coming out. It's just a natural part of me now.
I liked the song choice because it was a bit retro. I like that they didn't kind of go for something modern and something that they know would be trendy. But in making it retro, they made it trendy.
So the only other big news that has happened this week that we're very, very excited about is that Paul O'Grady is going back into Annie.
I know, this is exciting. A good little nugget of news for all the theatre geeks out there. Obviously, us included in that. Annie with Paul O'Grady, when he did it the first time, is one of the first shows I ever saw that wasn't panto.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it in the Empire when I was about 6 or 7. And I just remember at the time, because, obviously we all knew Lily Savage. I mean, she was a character that was in our consciousness even back then. And I just remember there was an absolute buzz in the audience before the show started of we're seeing Lily Savage. And I just remember that Paul O'Grady as Lily Savage, as Miss Hannigan, I mean, all these layers of characters was amazing. But it's funny, isn't it? Because when he made the announcement on Instagram, he put in his caption that this is the result of going for a few drinks with the producers and, agreeing to do something when you're a little bit tipsy. And we've done that before, haven't you? Have you done that before? Agreed to do a show when you've been a bit...
I'm trying to think what I agreed to at Brick Lane. I don't know. I might get a few texts saying, "Oh, thanks, Maria, that you said you'd do that for us."
So I'd love to know from the listeners, what's the biggest thing you've ever agreed to after you've had a few drinks? I bet there's some great answers out there. Okay, so talking fabulous nights at the theatre, let's get down to our interview and chat to our very, very special guests this week, Jack Pallister and Jordan Langford, also known as the boys from Brick Lane.
So we are here today and we're in a tiny little dressing room that's got red, fabulous lights. We've got a bottle of Prosecco. We're sat here.
I'm just trying to you said that like you were a tiny little dressing room. Became some kind of, I don't know.
Me after a gossip. And we are here with the boys from Brick Lane. Those of you that were listening last week will know that we love the boys from Brick Lane, Jack and Jordan. So maybe just vocally introduce yourselves now so when everyone's listening they know who's who.
Hello, my name's Jordan Langford.
And hello, my name is Jack Pallister.
We'd love to get to know both of you, and separately and together, and learn about Brick Lane, which is a fabulous venue, and how your careers led to you both working at such a prestigious venue.
So I'm from Scarborough originally, so obviously that's got quite a rich variety theatre history, and when we were younger, the first kind of foray into theatre I had was doing shows at the YMCA Theatre, which was summer seasons and kind of the panto and then Easter season, so it was very much a variety theatre way of getting into the industry really. And then I did a lot of shows with Kay Carmen. She was my first singing teacher when I was like 11 and I was a little soprano. And I won awards, darling. It's all gone. It's all gone now. I went and trained in musical theatre because I think the shame of it is that variety is either before or after. There's no sort of training for variety. There's no sort of route you can go down unless you go in that circuit and you have a special act or you have something that you do that ends up being your main thing that you do, and you take that with you and you can grow up like Josh Benson, a young lad who's brilliant, and he does comedy, he does magic, he does everything. And he's kind of made it through doing those things as well as doing musical theatre and doing those other things as well. But for me, it was musical theatre I went in as, and then graduated, and I think found that there was not much variety work really. I did stuff with Cave still, and things like the odd thing at the Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch and things like that. They like gigs that I still do. But then Brick Lane came to me because Ben Goff, who is a really, really talented artist, he worked there, and he also went to Conti, and then his mum got in touch with Tommy, who was a friend of mine in my year, who went on to work at Brick Lane. He'd worked there for like 3 years, and I lived so close to it. It's so embarrassing. I lived so close to it, like 3 minutes away, and I didn't go at all, because I was just like, oh, Tom's working there, it's all really good, looks really good, really great for him. And then one day I just thought, well, I want to kind of see what this is. So I went to go watch a show there and was blown away, really. It was exactly the stuff I'd done as a kid, those variety medleys and the comedy and the genius talents that were there. It was just amazing. I really wanted to work there, so I auditioned and got into the company. The way they like to do it, the way they'd done it originally, was they would go to drama schools, so Mount View, Bird and Erdang and places like that. They would audition, or we would go in, well, we, as in me now, but before me, the producer Zara Katan would go in and see the third years, and then they would handpick the people that they thought had potential in that sort of circuit, which is actually, from doing it and going into those places, it's quite tough to see the dynamic of performer that works well at Brick Lane, because you've got to have that sort of connection with the audience that is completely detached from musicals. Musicals are play out in front and tell a story. Yeah. This is get those audiences with you and to come with you on a journey of entertainment as opposed to a story.
It's a whole night out, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
when I
absolutely.
was looking on the website and you get food and drinks.
Oh, you get a 3-course meal, you get your afternoon tea, you get a scone and
Get a scone.
It's
green
an
tea.
experience, isn't it? Rather than getting yourself lost into the world of a play in
Exactly,
that
it's
sense.
a completely different.
When you walk in those doors, you go back in time.
It's
The
amazing.
music, the way it's decorated, you know, and that's before the show's even started. It is a pure step back into time,
It's incredible. Yeah.
and you just sort of get lost in this sort of world that has kind of been forgotten
Yeah.
in mainstream theatre
Mm.
now.
Definitely.
So if you're looking for a performer then, and you're looking at the latest graduates, what skills do you look for in a variety performer?
I think it's in one moment. When they're in a showcase or something, a lot of the performers and a lot of young people, you're kind of trained so rigorously to stand and perform out, keep your focus on one place or have two places to focus and tell a story through a song. Whereas what we tend to look for and the people that we tend to kind of pick out, it's obviously the great voices. I mean, we do a lot of medleys. We've been rehearsing today actually for the 30th anniversary show at Brick Lane, which was February, but we're doing the show now. We've been rehearsing today, and actually the vocals are so important, aren't they? It's kind of moved on, Brick Lane, from being that music hall thing to being a production show environment, and the vocals are so important. So that's the first thing I'd look for, and then it's just those odd moments of when they connect with the audience. If there's a moment where they engage or they try and bring in the audience in a different way than kind of focusing out and telling the story out, it's just that those little tiny moments that you find, and you're like that person. And there's been so many amazing performers we've had from those places. But
Why don't we teach that? Or can you teach that?
When I was at drama school, we did a whole term on variety theatre, and we had a teacher who taught us all about the stars of that era. We had to put on our own variety show. We had to learn the old sort of sketches, some of the songs, and all that sort of stuff. And actually, for me, I mean, I don't know, can't talk on behalf of the rest of my year, but for me, that was the brand of theatre that I resonated the most with. Like, I found my career, like what I wanted to do in that semester, in that term, because I was like, this is me. Like, I love making people laugh, I love singing, but I'm not going to be, you know, Jean Valjean,
Yeah.
because I haven't got that kind of voice. But I have got a voice that can entertain people, that can tell a story, that can get everyone clapping and singing along and engaged. And that form of variety theatre is somewhat dated now, maybe, and some of it isn't probably politically correct or whatever, but there are still parts of it that are in other aspects of theatre. So it does sort of drip through. When we see it in its sort of raw form, like at Brick Lane, it still has a real place. And there are still a lot of performers, like myself, like you, that still have the ability professionally to do it. And I think, you know, I think it is important that we still teach it in the drama schools, because there will always be generations where, you know, we've got a lot of younger performers working at Brick Lane, and they're perfect for that. So it's that we're still coming through,
Yeah.
but it just needs to be taught. Otherwise, it will just die out.
well, that's what
Because it doesn't have a place.
Vincent Hayes, who started it, who runs it still, that's what his kind of ethos was, of bringing in the younger performers, was to bring them in and train them in the ways of doing variety theatre. So then when you go out, and I mean, people have come through Brick Lane and gone to the West End and gone into different places, but you always do take a very different energy, and I find that the people that work there have a very different energy and performance, and they can do other things. You go to a gig, they can do a cabaret. It's not just a stand and sing. They'll do something else. They'll bring like a personality, or they'll have a variety section or comedy or anything like that. You learn from these incredible people that we get to work with, and that's how, I guess that's the thing. But you can't, it should be taught in a way. I think it should be at every drama school, because it's a fundamental part. It's like vaudeville,
it happened, and it's all, you know, you talk about sort of Gilbert and Sullivan became musical theatre, you know, like became Oklahoma, became so on and so forth. And so variety theatre is part of that heritage prior to what the musicals that we know now. Yeah. Without that, we wouldn't have progressed to the next level. So we can't ignore that part of history.
And it's so much part of our culture in Britain as well, isn't it? The stand-up, the drag queens, like
pantomime, all of that, you know, and it still exists, and it's still really important. Also, it's still sometimes children's first experience of theatre. You know, pantomime, or a summer season, or an Easter show, or, you know, End of the Pier. Like, it was my first trip to the theatre, and it still is for a lot of, and also it's quite accessible, it's immersive, it's audience participation, so it's entertaining for younger people who can't sit and watch a straight play or a heavy musical. So without it, it's going to be really hard to get kids involved in that sort of.
Well, I think when you said about pantomime is really important, because you said about the training aspect of it. Pantomime is one of the biggest employers of performers. I'm sure it must be the biggest.
Absolutely.
And that is where music hall. I mean, you watch the Palladium pantomime, for example. It's a music hall show. It's a spot show. So they come on, they do their act, they go off. They come on, do their act. There's a story around it, but it's a music hall show. So having those kind of skills that you learn in that would be so vital for panto. And I don't really think that many teach panto classes. They might do, but it's
hard. I mean, panto is a great contract. 3 shows a day, physical comedy, dancing, singing, lifts, partner work. You know, for the comics, for the dame, 100 quick changes, different accessories. Like, it is a full-on job around Christmas where it's cold, everyone's poorly. It's a hard job. It's a really hard job. I mean, it's one of my favourite jobs, but it's hard, and I think it still has a bit of a. People sort of look their nose down at panto because it's, you know, well, it's a second-rate job. I think it's definitely the most fun I've ever had on stage doing panto. And I would say it's just as hard, if not harder, than some of the shows where the ensemble come on maybe like 2, 3 times.
Yeah.
Obviously knocking what they're doing, because it's amazing. But I know that it's an intense format for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is. It's hard work.
And at the heart of it, you've got that interaction with the audience. It's such a connection with them, isn't it? You know, it's not just this detached thing. Are you guys ever surprised by the types of people that you get in the audience at Brick Lane?
Absolutely. Absolutely not. They are, I mean, they're glorious. They come from afar. They come in they're coaches from Southend and Essex and Kent and Newcastle. They come from all over, and they just want a good time. They just want to get hella drink, have some food, and be entertained. And they'll shout out. They'll get involved. They'll sing along, and it's. In a way, it's a bit like, this is going to be a bit morbid, but it's not. You know, the first trip to the theatre for a lot of people is panto variety, but also when you're towards the end of your life and you retired and you've got more disposable income and you've got time on your hands, why not go back and enjoy those things like you would have done when you were younger?
Yeah, absolutely.
But then get the jokes and understand like what's going on, more than just seeing like pretty dance routines and the colours and stuff. And I think we just come full circle. I think it's got a place for, I mean, we love it. We're a very specific kind of person, but I think it's like for young people and older people, and that's really their main target audience. Not so much at Brick Lane, but that pantomime and stuff, you know. And I think when you see them out there, you think that you could be a bunch of kids watching this show, because they almost revert to what they would have been like when they were younger.
Well, there's all the songs that their parents taught them, their grandparents taught them, that they learnt when they were younger. So you see that immediate connection when you sing like Bull and Bush or something that's like Maria Lovelady section. When you sing anything like that, you see them like the audience, like no matter what age, which is quite interesting because you knew all the songs before you worked there.
But that was my grandparents, you know. My family is sort of a London family, so they grew up with all those songs. My nan used to sing like "Hold Your Hand Like You're Not a Boy" when we were in the bath, and my gran used to play the Can and Knees Up Mother Brown on the piano while we'd all dance around the living room. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had that initial, you know, like knowledge of it. And then when I got a bit older and we started doing like variety shows at the church and we did pantomimes and stuff, I was like, oh, I know this. And then when I got to sort of 18 at drama school and we were learning about it, no one else in my year knew any of the songs or any of the stars, but I was like, oh, I know this. And then I realised, like, my God, my whole sort of life has been leading up to But it's sort of like, it's been happening all my life, so maybe it is pointing me in that direction, because I had that growing up, and then I'm learning about it, and then the jobs are coming in that are like that, so why not just go for it? Like, it seems like there's a pattern throughout my years growing up and training.
So we haven't talked about your career very much at the moment.
A very short conversation.
But would you consider yourself as a variety entertainer? Because you have so many strings to your bow.
Yeah.
How do you view yourself as a performer? And maybe tell us a little bit about how you got involved in Brick Lane as well.
I think I wouldn't, because my background was in dancing. So I've trained in ballet. I went off and worked, and I still do work with ballet companies. And that was kind of my thing. And I wasn't really a singer, actor. I was a dancer who could blag it. Blag those skills in the back, you know. And then when I sort of graduated, I went into dance contracts and did all that, and I went on the cruise ships, happy days, loved it all. But then when we met and I found out that you worked at Brick Lane, I was like, oh, I have to work there, I have to work there, because it's the only thing I hadn't done professionally. I'd done it as a kid, I'd done it all the variety stuff growing up, but I'd never been paid to do a variety show like that. It'd always been a dancer. I'd never been able to like go on stage and sing those songs. So when the opportunity came up, we worked together on some of the shows, choreography, and then this year was my first on-stage Brick Lane show. So we did a Cockney sing-song, and I did it my own spot, which was amazing. I mean, I was so nervous. I was like, inside I was dying.
Lots of rehearsing in the lounge.
Lots of rehearsing, lots of singing, lots of tears. But because it is there's so much pressure. I mean, it's just you. You're having to make jokes with the audience. I mean, and also like, you're making fun of the audience, you know, you're going around and sort of the Dame Edna Everage thing where you pick some of the audience and you make fun of them and you feel terrible, but then it's just you, so you can't hide behind. I couldn't hide behind all the dancers. I had to sing, I had to learn lines, I had to, you know, and I hadn't done those skills in a while. But once they start laughing and you can relax into it, it's the best feeling. It's
Once
amazing.
you knew you had them on side.
Exactly. So now I would say, yes, I feel like I'm going back into my roots of, I kind of lost that because I went into a career path that I knew that I could do, no stress, hands down, I could dance, I can do that, that's fine. Don't have to think about that. You know, I don't get nervous. I got nervous with this, and that's when I was like, that's great, I need that. Because otherwise you just get complacent.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, why are you not challenging yourself? So and we're obviously doing this show as well now, and hopefully more. Like, I get that thrill that I haven't had since I was a kid. So I love that. So I would say I'm sort of slowly going back to my roots of variety theatre. And it's nice because I'm like, all those years ago with my gran, sitting around the piano singing those songs, I'm like, she was preparing me for this. And she didn't even know it. So it's like, it's really nice.
That's amazing. So tell us about what's coming up then at Brick Lane.
It's the 30th year, so it started in 1992 on Brick Lane. Vincent started it, so Vincent Hayes on the first, Vincent Hayes MBE. On the clang in February, and then they had a run at Brick Lane, and then it moved to Curtain Road, just around the corner essentially. And then in 2001, I think, they moved to the new premises, which was St Mark's Church.
An old church.
It was an old church, it had been left. He took over the building and renovated it beyond belief. It's incredible.
Stunning.
It's a stunning building. And then that's when they kind of started doing the more production variety shows. And they kind of started from then. So this year is celebrating 30. It's the same age as me, which is lovely, so it's easy to remember. So it's 30 years this year, and we're doing the 30th anniversary show, which opens on Thursday.
Which is the 29th of September.
Yes, it is the 29th of September.
And what can we expect from that show?
It's a bit of everything. When we did the Cockney show, it was very Cockney, you know, it was very music hall. This is much more a sort of best of show. So we're doing the decade, so we have got some of the Cockney stuff. The opening's a Cockney medley, and then it goes into sort of special guests.
So this is the people that have performed at Brick Lane. So you've got
Barbara Windsor, Anita Harris,
Frankie Vaughan.
So all people that have worked there over the years.
The Bachelors.
Proper rich history. Then it goes into a bit of a decade.
And of course, we have to say Danny LaRue.
Danny
LaRue put Brick Lane. He put Brick Lane on the map, and the last place that Danny performed on stage was at Brick Lane that we're at now. That's the last place.
So we're doing a Hello Danny, like Hello Dolly, but obviously Hello Danny.
Yeah, so if you go into the building now, it's amazing. Stephen Metcalf, who was a dresser of his, has done all the costumes that they've donated. So there's costumes in like museum style glass cages all around the building.
It's a beautiful place.
And then we've got a 50s medley, because that's a big show that we've done. It's a massive crowd pleaser. The War, a girls medley from the War era.
Vera Lynn and all that sort of stuff.
Boys medley, which is like
Beach Boys,
Beatles, and those things. And then it ends with a celebrating panto. So it's a panto finale. So we do 12 characters. There's only like 7 of us in there. I'm the genie.
I'm Robin Hood.
You are Robin Hood.
Strapping.
How many is there? There's like 8 of us doing 12 characters.
Amazing.
And we go this fastest quick change ever.
You do the dame, you do the buttons, all those characters.
Those are all the characters.
And as a song or a sketch or?
All different songs to represent that character.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then we've got Josh Benson as a special guest doing a spot, and he's in some of the medleys, and then Vincent, of course, doing hosting.
And this is all in one show?
All in one show.
And we're learning it in like how many days?
About
4 days.
Oh, you'll do it.
Yeah.
You'll
it always
do
comes
it.
together. It'll be right on the night.
And are you two working on that creatively as well as performing?
Yes. I took over the job of resident choreographer in 2017, and I've done it ever since. And then this year I went to do my master's in directing, so I've gone more into directing choreography. And while I was doing it, I was very busy, and I was like, oh God, Brick Lane was opening, everything was starting again. And luckily I have my lovely partner who is a fantastic choreographer. I was like, please, can you just basically join me on my job? So then they
kind of shared the role this year.
So now, we share the role, which has been
you
so
can't
much
always
better.
do both of them. So you've done one, I've done one, and we're taking it in turn.
Yeah, so we choreographed this one. A lot of it's kind of revisiting those medleys we've done before, and then kind of adding a new judge and kind of focusing on the actors and performers we have now, because it changes all the time. If you've got performers that they're a bit different, you want to make it kind of service them and make them the best they can be on that stage. It's a very different stage. It's small but looks big, so you've got to fill the stage with
and I'm nearly 6'4", so
I was
imagine
thinking that,
I'm a hazard. I'm a major hazard.
Especially when you do a good box split,
Oh
which we've seen the video. I've seen a video of.
I won't be doing that in this show.
You want to take out the wings.
I'll take you all out. Oh my God.
But that's interesting what you just said about making the show relevant to the performers you've got, because his personality then is a huge part of the shows that you do at Brick Lane.
Totally. I mean, I've worked with some of my now best friends from working at Brick Lane, like Lucy Reed, who's an amazing performer.
Like Cockney Songbird.
Cockney Songbird, she's incredible, and I a lot of the time service her. I know her so well now. I know how to service her on stage. I know how to service just loads of different artists that I work with, like you.
Andrew
Robley, incredible singer, done amazing work in his career, and he's worked there a long time, and it's especially in the panto, because he does the dame, and I think it must be the most costume changes in a panto. It must be. I think we worked out.
At least 20 costumes.
It's ridiculous, and they're all top. Stephen Metcalf does them all. Frank does them all. They're absolutely incredible costumes, and there's just so many quick changes. But you have to be able to service those artists, because if you can't, you're trying to imprint. Because a lot of the medleys, there is quite a lot of new ones that we use, but a lot of them are kind of stuff that we've done before that we kind of rejig and kind of repurpose for a new audience. And finding the way to make that relevant for those artists is important, and that's again the variety version of it.
Yeah.
Like in the West End version, if you can't do it, you don't get the job, you don't book the job. Whereas and you're not
You're
right height,
fitting
you're
the
off.
same character's costume as last time.
Because it's the same production. You're honouring that show that it was set originally. Whereas here, it's about bringing people's personalities and people's strengths
And different
to
body shapes, body sizes.
Yeah.
It's very body positive. And there's Zara Catani does all the costumes with Lisa and Nicola. They have to. Every time there's a different body shape, they have to redo. We have a massive costume store from Imagine throughout the years. It's huge, but everything gets redone. Zara's got the most incredible eye for detail I've ever known in my life. But she will just change something slightly, or change a costume or something. And they just really do focus it on that specific performer in the show, and it is really beautiful to work somewhere like that.
Can you guys tell when you see a performer, when like a new performer comes in, whether they have got a prior love for variety as you guys did?
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of it, when people come in, it's a very interesting place to work, because it's such a quick rehearsal process. There's non-stop laughter. No one, like backstage, honestly, we just laugh all the time. Everything's just fun. So people that come in that kind of don't get it, which there is people that's happened with, because you see there's talent and then there's getting that sort of vibe backstage, which is a bit fun. I
would say everyone who's watching the shows this year have obviously had a love for it. I mean, they've come back for all the shows. They come and watch them when they're not in them. I would say that the people now, I can't comment on the past, people now have a real love for it.
To be frank, they get
and it shows on stage.
They get whittled out. You have to have a love for it. It's like any job. Why would you do a job you don't love, especially a performing job? Like, you have to love it and just want to be able to showcase this style and this history and this incredibly rich building. with your work, and I think it's important that people respect that when they work there, because it is such a special place to work.
So how about you two? I'd love to know from each of you, what do you love most about working at Brick Lane?
I think it's carrying on the heritage, educating and entertaining more people and keeping that alive, because I think without places like Brick Lane, the whole form of variety in our sort of world now would be dead. There's no other venue like Brick Lane in the world.
It's the only music hall that was opened after the war, so think about that, putting that into perspective, that's quite a big thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's the only music hall that currently runs full year, I think, as well. So it's like
other places do, you know, Leeds
Leeds,
varieties, and they do fabulous shows, but they're not there all year round. And I think without Brick Lane, I think, especially in London, I think the whole sort of that scene will just be forgotten. It'd be such a shame if that happens.
I think mine would be working with people that all share the same value as you, as a person working in theatre now, because, like I said, I've made some of the best friends I have in my life there, because we all share the same values, we all share the same love of variety theatre, love of entertaining people, and then going to the dressing room and just being excited about entertaining people every day, and just being with people that you can just basically have a laugh with and take that on stage, but it doesn't become... That's also another difference. In a musical, you can't really have that connection. We can have a personal connection on stage, and you have to, otherwise the numbers are lost. When we come on, we were rehearsing today the 50s medley, for example, and I kept encouraging everyone. I was like, really react to each other, like talk to each other, like on stage, with like part in character and stuff like character, but talk to each other, engage with each other, because it really makes a difference to the audience's enjoyment. They're watching people. They're not watching numbers. You're watching people engaging with each other and truly loving being on there, and then taking that and spreading that around the room, and that's what I love about it, being with those people.
Well, we speak to a lot of people variety linked, don't we? And everyone kind of brings it back to this idea of it's a place where you find your tribe. You know, it's the place where you find the like-minded people. It's the place that you find the club, really, isn't it? It's the people that have got the same interests as you.
So have you got anything else coming up that we can catch you in?
Well, we're working together on the Brighton Panto, which is the Aladdin this year. It's at the Brighton Centre, the 22nd of December to the 27th of December. It's quite a short run. It's a company that I work for called E3 Production. John's choreographing this year. And I'm in the ensemble.
It's an arena, so it makes
it
massive. It's in the arena, it's huge. So
it's a really short run. It's just 10 shows and it's in the arena. But it's a traditional family pantomime with a bit of a quirky edge as well, so just trying to bring it into the sort of 21st century. But essentially, Brighton didn't have a pantomime for 7 years, and now they've brought it back. No, it
didn't have one.
The Theatre Royal,
It's so surprising.
The Theatre Royal did the panto up until about 2013. No, before that, 2011, and then they cut it, and then the company I work for, E3, brought it back in 2017. It was at the Hilton, so they built a theatre in the hotel. 850 seat theatre, it was incredible. And then the Brighton Centre had picked it up. It was obviously meant to be last year, but now Omicron got the better of it. So we're just about to announce some of the cast. But Alison Ferns, who's the BBC Radio Sussex, is starring it, and it will be a fabulous show.
She's very good.
She's very good.
Well, it's definitely being created by people who know what they're doing.
Exactly.
And it's now trying to expand that to a arena.
Yeah.
Like it's bringing variety.
Making it big.
It's a big part of
bold and colourful, and bringing that. So it's got
keeping that. What makes panto special?
We've got traditional routines, if I'm not up on this stage, and all those old-fashioned, 12 Days of Christmas, all those ones from back then, but then putting it with some modern values as well, and then making it big.
But doesn't the fact that it's on in an arena, and the people, the producers with the money, they're putting the money in something like that, they must know it's going to sell. So in everyone's hearts, people do want variety, and producers know that it's going to sell. It's just rebranded under something a bit different.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
So because it's an arena, is it bigger in terms of like ensemble and are there more people in it? Is it more of a spectacle, or is it just still very much traditional in that sense? I
think it's staying quite traditional because that's what panto is. I think if you take it out of that, it becomes... I mean, the Palladium is absolutely wonderful, but again, because there's such big stars, they make it a spot show. So again, without doing that, you have to stay traditional, I think. And it's using that traditional vibe of what makes panto, the variety vibe of what makes panto, and then adding loads of flair to it so that it can hit the back of that arena.
Keeping the storyline, but then without losing it with the spots. So we've got spots and we've got routines, but we don't want that to compromise telling the story of Aladdin or telling the story of whatever we do next year, that sort of thing. So it's getting that happy balance of the two, really, on a big scale.
That sounds amazing. So expanding on that a little bit then, tell us guys, who are some of your favourite variety performers?
So mine, in terms of inspiration, the teacher that taught us about variety at school was a lady called Hazel Collinson, but her stage name was Lisa Shane. She was married to Peter Collinson, who directed The Italian Job. She was in the film. She was also Barbara Streisand's understudy in the West End production of Funny Girl.
Clang! There's a clang!
And she actually took over because Barbara left the show because she was pregnant, so she left quite soon after starting, and then she took over for the run with amazing reviews.
Wow.
But her career started in variety theatre. She was on tour with Julie Andrews in that same circuit, going around all the clubs, all the places, doing variety theatre. So when she taught us about it, she had the best knowledge because she was there. And she told us all the truth and the stories behind it. It was so interesting. You know, she's not your Mari Lloyd and your Florrie Ford, who are like really famous around the world and notorious for doing that. But she was there doing it. Slightly after that, obviously. I mean, she's 88. I spoke to her the other day. She's still going strong. She still works for a company called Shenanigans. I think it was going up till COVID, and they go around doing musical stuff. She's still doing it. She just loves it. It's her favourite thing. You know, she's done all sorts of jobs. Worked for the circus, worked, in the West End, worked in films, whatever. She's done it all. But she just loves, she says, I just feel at home on stage, and I just love entertaining. And I think, for me, when I was learning about it and resonating with it, I can't believe someone who's telling me about it actually was there. And now when we're doing it, I'm like, imagine in 30, 40, 50 years time when we're telling people that, oh, we were part of that. I mean, that would be full circle for me. But yeah, so for me, it's her. She
sounds like someone we need to speak
to. She'd be perfect. Her stories are incredible. I mean, she's got stories about the Cray twins, everything.
Oh my gosh.
She dated Joan Collins. She lived next door to her in LA. I mean, she's got stories about everyone. She's
amazing. How about you?
I was going through my head then. I was like, I've got a lot. I think there's like 3 generations of like Mari Lloyds. So I think Mari Lloyd, I think incredible. I think those songs and the way that Vincent tells a joke, I'm going to absolutely bastardise it. But he says, Mari Lloyd would sell out the Hackney Empire. There'd be 2,000 people in front of her. She'd sing and she'd stand. There'd be a full orchestra in front of her and she'd stand there and she'd sing. And it'd be so beautiful and so loud, and everyone on the back row couldn't hear a bloody word. No mics. So she's my favourite. And then next generation, I think from her, Barbara Windsor. Who was a true icon of music hall.
Everything.
I feel like we all need a minute's silence now you mentioned the name.
Day and Barbara.
And
actually, she performed at Brick Lane and did a Q&A, and Vincent asked her before, he was like, oh, what would you most like to do that you haven't done? It was in like 1993 or 4.
Yeah.
What would you like to do you haven't done? And she said, I want to do a soap. And he said, oh, what soap should I love to do? EastEnders. So the casting director got him in. She did the same Q&A and he asked her again, what do you want to be? She wants to be EastEnders. Then she rang Vincent up and said, I'm taking you out for dinner. And he was like, why? And then told her she'd got EastEnders from being
Wow.
Yeah, so it's quite, so I think she is incredible. And then I think my generation of that, I think, is Lucy Reed, who I mentioned earlier. I think she is incredible. She's got exactly those charming Cockney qualities that those 2 women had, and I think it's kind of seeing that generational thing of those 3. I think she really is a modern day star, and she's brilliant.
Yeah, she is.
And then for comedy, Vincent Hayes and Paul James, R.I.P. Paul James was a comedian at Brick Lane, who both of them have taught me everything I know about comedy from a separate angle. Vincent can be on his feet and can get everyone going all the time, knows how to stay on top of everyone, knows how to, figuratively, knows how to stay on top of everybody, stay with it. He can make a joke out of anything. It's the quickest wit I've ever seen. Paul had the same act every single day, every day, but it was never, ever not perfect. Everyone laughed at every moment. He knew perfection of comedy, and you see those 2 kind of angles, and that's where I learned everything from comedy.
That's something that we've come across a lot with performers of variety, is that they do it so many times and they did it over and over again that they could be perfect at what they were doing. And I don't think younger performers nowadays that we get the chance to actually do that, because once you've put it out once on Instagram, everyone's seen it. You're not taking it.
And that's what killed. I remember Hazel was telling us the story that what killed variety theatre was television, because years ago you would rehearse your act for the season and you'd go and tour that, or you do a residency, and people would see you, and then you come back the next year and see something else. When they started televising the London Palladium and all these other things, you do that act, you couldn't tour that act for the rest of the year. Because back then, the whole nation would have watched it. So that was it. You'd have to constantly be thinking up more and more material, and then it just killed it.
And also, they couldn't nick anything because it was on the telly.
Yeah,
exactly. Everyone used to nick it, didn't they? Nick a bit of comedy.
And now it's daily. Now it's like every day on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. You've got to be coming up with new things. So creatively, it's a lot.
It's tough. And I think it's a shame in a way. Yeah, I think it's a shame.
It is.
It's just everything's fast. It's like everything's fast now. Fast paced, fast food, fast everything.
And the audiences now have such a short attention span as well, don't they? You know what I mean? It's got to be...
You notice the phones after COVID. I've noticed phones in the theatre, phones at Brick Lane. They're going off in every show I've sat in, I've been in, I've worked on. The phones are going off all the time. People are on their phone. We went to see Tina, the musical, and the whole way through in front of us, these two lasses were Googling every character. The whole way through.
No!
I was like, what is going on? Like, you're not at home, you're live.
Yeah.
The beauty of theatre is it's a live, shared, sorry to myself. A live, just knocked my glass over.
I feel like we should explain that we're sat here with a fabulous bottle of Prosecco.
And
we all keep knocking them over.
Maybe we should have mentioned that earlier.
You'll be able to tell if not.
When everyone thinks, why are they getting rowdy?
Absolute rubbish.
So how about, we've just mentioned theatres then, what are some of your favourite theatres?
Well, if I'm going big time, obviously the Palladium. Everyone, but that must that must be everyone's answer.
I don't think anyone's ever said the Palladium.
It's surprisingly, many people just said, and we must have had someone who said it.
I don't think anyone's ever said it.
I think it was the first West End theatre I ever went to as a child to see a show. But in terms of my actual favourite theatre that I love with all my heart, is the Epsom Playhouse, which is a tiny little theatre in Epsom. It's where I used to do all my dance school shows as a kid. And now I'm older, my friends' children and my godchildren, they do their dance school shows there. So it's so nice to go back. And one of the tours I'm doing next year is going there. And I just can't wait. It sounds so sad. It's only a small theatre. And there's a little guy who works front of house, he's a volunteer. And he is still there. I saw him a few months ago when I went to see him the shows. And I went up to him and I said, you won't remember this, but I remember you when I was about 12 the last time I was there. And we used to do our dance school shows here. And he said, what was the name of the school? And I said, Christine Kearsley School of Dance. And he said, were you the little boy in the white waistcoat leaning on a lamppost? And I was like, yes, but your dance school had the best dance school shows. They've never been as good as when you did. And he remembered. And I thought, well, obviously he hasn't changed at all because he was an old man then and he still is. But obviously I was about 5 foot and like little. But yeah, I love the Epsom Playhouse. I can't beat. Lane Theatre Arts do their shows there. So I suppose it's got a lot of heritage with performers. That theatre.
And why don't you tell us what show is it you're taking there?
So I work for a ballet company called Let's All Dance, and they're in association with Classic Ballet UK. We've got a couple of shows on at the moment. We're doing Alice in Wonderland, which is going to the Phoenix Theatre on the 23rd of October.
In the West End.
I know, there's that as well.
Land on the 3.
And they've got other shows. They've got a tour of the Nutcracker, and we're doing The Princess and the Frog. The show that's going there next year is Cinderella. We're doing loads. The website's got them all on, but we're
What's the website, Jack?
letsaldance.co.uk, something like that.
Put it in the show notes.
But they do, what I like about that company is that they make ballet accessible for young people. So it's similar to the whole variety scene. They tell the story, there's narration, they break it down, it's shorter, and it's all the famous ballets and all the famous fairy tales, but in shorter, condensed versions for families, for children, and it's like their first experience of ballet. So it's similar to panto, similar to the variety scene. It's a different way of telling ballet in a different form, and so it's lovely. It's a really, really lovely company.
Gorgeous. And how about you? Your favourite theatre?
It is the London Palladium. I think not many places have that. Again, for variety reasons, I guess, because the artists that perform there, like Judy Garland, oh my god, the artists that have been in that building, there's like a spiritual feeling in there. I went on the stage once and I just walked across the stage and I was like, there's something different here. Like, you just feel the energy of all these artists that have been there and these incredible performers and shows that have been there. I just think and it's beautiful as well. The Palladium, I love the Royal Albert Hall.
That is one that gets mentioned a lot.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
That's stunning. Yeah, fair play.
It's like, it's just a gorgeous venue. Yeah, I think I don't have really emotional connection like you do, but I think that's mine. Yeah, Palladium and the Albert Hall.
Fabulous. Yeah. And we always ask the question, if you could have any God-given talent and you didn't need to train, you didn't need to bother doing anything, what variety act would you like to be?
I think comedy. I think that people that can do comedy really well are incredible. I think I've seen so many people that are okay, and I've seen people where they're geniuses and they have timing, they have rhythm, it's like pace, it's held back, they punch out at the right point. I think it's an absolute skill that you can teach, but I think it's in you. I'd love to be able to do that. And also, there's a violinist, Victoria Francis, who I think is incredible. And she does a variety act where she does violin and she entertains and she sings and she does everything with the violin.
Yes.
She is...
can while she's
oh my god,
yes.
she's incredible.
Oh my god,
I'm
it's amazing.
Massive fangirl for her. And I would love to be able to play
and
violin.
she works at Brick Lane as well.
She has worked at Brick Lane, yeah. I'm a massive fangirl for the violin, love the violin, love to be able to do that. I think it's actually quite a cool music hall skill.
Yeah.
To be able to entertain with an instrument. It's quite, because obviously it's ukulele.
Stick with the comedy, you're not learning the violin. That will be horrendous. It'll be horrendous. Work on your jokes.
Yeah. And when you say comedy, do you mean stand-up, or would you like to do, like, would you be a character? Like, what would your dream
I think stand-up and hosting, like what Vincent or Paul James and what those people have done that I've seen at Brick Lane. And
so being a funny version of you.
Yeah. Because I can do it, but
That
I
really
don't have that
implies
skill.
though that he's not funny at
I am
all.
funny. I am funny.
You're right. You're right.
I'm not like skilled like they are. Like, it's a different skill. Like, I'm funny with my friends, and I can do it. I can host things, but I don't have that God-given, inbuilt confidence in the rhythm and the stuff that it's all about rhythm, and it's science. It's a science comedy. When you see them do it, it's like this place, this is here, this is that's there. I know where I'm pulling that story from. I'm using that person for this story. It's like it's the mind map that comedians have is just insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd love to be able to do that.
And to put yourself out there as yourself as well, I think is a really vulnerable thing, because you're not dressing up like Keith Lennon or you know, something like that. Like actually to be you.
And you know what? I love that the most. My favourite gigs or things to do as a performer, when I still perform, is singing gigs where I am myself. But I just wish I had that element as well. Like, as a singer and stuff, it's fine. You can do a little bit of chat, a little bit funny, move on. Whereas I'd love to have that real skill of being able to do that.
Well, I saw you both perform last time. I was here and you were fabulous.
Yeah.
You both were fabulous.
Thank you.
So how about you?
I think magic. I love to be able to do magic. Like close magic and the big tricks and stuff. You know, I think there's something there's something really special about it. And I think no one ever goes, wow. Well, I mean, people go, wow, at singing and dancing, but there's something really, I suppose, magical about my auntie was a dancer, and she worked in a lot of magic shows, but she was like the pretty one who got in the box and disappeared. And
you're not fitting in any boxes.
No, I'm not going to fit in any of the boxes. You have to be like a lorry or something. Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to be able to do a bit of magic. That would be great. But I don't think I've got time for this to learn it. If I could just do it, if I could magic myself into doing magic, then it'd be magic. Definitely.
Do you guys get many magic acts at Brick Lane?
We have had, yeah. It's quite few and far between. Josh Benson does magic. Yeah. And I mean, for a younger person, he's like 24 or 23.
He's got everything.
He's just got everything. He's one of those people where
he's someone that you hope's going to be really horrible, but he's not.
Yeah.
You hate him. You have to be like,
I've known him since he was 12. I did an amateur production of Oliver with him in York, and I've known him the whole time. He's just never ever not been amazing. You can just do anything. But magic, he does quite a lot. And we've had quite a lot of different magicians and stuff. People come in. Yeah, it's hard to find really good ones though. Really good. People that are like really wow and can like
it's quick,
entertain.
Funny.
It's comedy as well. Again, it's using all those different skills. And I think
because it can be quite dry, can't it? If you see someone and it's like, oh, and then they did this, and then you did that, and you're like, okay, I've seen it.
Yeah, there's going to be a patter, hasn't there?
Well, Josh messes it up. I've seen Josh mess it up before on stage, but he makes it so funny that you can get away with it. It's like it's brilliant. It's like it's a real skill. But yeah, I agree with you. Magic is a good one. It's a good shout. Yeah.
Well, are you ready for our quick fire round?
Yes.
And we're going to ask you the same, and you can both say different things.
It's like Ellen.
I'll go first.
Go for it.
Performing or choreographing?
Choreographing.
Performing.
Oh.
I'm not ready to give it up yet. Yeah. You're done. You're done.
I'm retired. I only go back for a big fee or if I want to do it.
A grand jeté or a pas de bourrée?
Pas de bourrée.
In
any routine, stick 50 pas de bourrées in.
No one goes wow.
This is it. It ties together. It's a great film. It's a great. It's versatile.
But if I could do a grand jeté like you, I'd be doing it.
You're just lazy.
Yeah, fair play. I like to stay on the floor.
We're gonna have to link up the pictures of you doing it, just
you
so everyone can see it because it's amazing.
Yeah, you do.
Joan Collins or Gemma Collins?
Joan Collins.
Joan Collins, yeah.
Thank God you came together under Joan.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a special place there for Gemma in all of our hearts, I'm sure.
Gemma.
Can't be Joan. Oh, I'd love to work with Joan Collins.
Me too.
Barbara Windsor or Barbara Streisand?
Barbara Windsor.
Fabulous.
I mean, again, Barbara Streisand, amazing.
I
but
can't.
You can't.
I
mean, we're British. We have to pick the Brit.
She was so good.
Barbara Windsor could have played Yentl, but Barbara Streisand couldn't have played Peggy.
Can you imagine that?
I'm going to use that. I'm definitely using that.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Pimm's on the lawn or mulled wine by the fire?
Oh, mulled wine,
alcoholics.
Mulled wine. Both, all of them.
Prosecco in the dressing room.
Yeah, Prosecco in the dressing room.
I'm going to say mulled wine because I love the wine. I love it.
I don't really like
drink.
No,
you don't even like mulled wine. This is an easy.
Yeah, but I like the idea.
Question
it was the fire that got me. I was like,
this
fire.
is an easy question. You won't drink mulled wine.
Yeah, fair. Pims.
So
Pims. I'll go for Pims.
And our final one that we always ask is, would you rather be sat in the audience or waiting in the wings?
Waiting in the wings. But then
so you're not ready to give up?
Then there you go.
Watching, no, like observing. I quite like both. I like to.
Waiting in the wings, but just watching the show.
Because you've choreographed it.
Taking notes.
Yeah, but I mean, I quite like to have one.
Oh, and another thing, when you sat in the audience, you think, I wonder what they're doing behind the curtain. I think
yes.
everyone thinks.
If it's my show, I want to be there in the audience. If it's like someone else's show, like, yeah, it's different.
I get very envious when we go and see a show, and I'm like, I wish that was me.
Yeah.
I don't. But I want to. What? No.
I mean, I don't necessarily wish it was that show, but
yeah.
I just wish. I wish I was doing the show right now.
Yeah.
But then there's sometimes when you're in a show and you're like, oh, I wish I was just watching. I wish I was having a glass of wine watching this show.
But it's really good.
I've been doing this for 6 months watching.
Yeah.
Well, we're about to see a fabulous show tonight here at the CAA. And obviously, last time you were here, you performed Only Fools and Horses. And you played the spoons.
Any cutlery playing tonight?
I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
It's the first time we've been to a CAA show that we're not in.
Yeah.
So it actually will be nice to sit back and watch it for once.
Enjoy it.
And not be stood there like, oh my god.
Because I think the audience here is quite unique again. It's the same to like Brick Lane. Because everyone kind of knows
they've had their
they've
had their chippy tea. They've got a beer. They've got a vino, and then they're going to watch a couple of lovely singers. And what more could you want?
That's all I want.
On a Monday evening, that is what all I want.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's been amazing. I feel like we could have done a whole podcast just of this or that.
No, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
No, it's really been amazing.
This is all just one head throb after another for you, isn't it? After our interview with Jack and Jordan having Prosecco in the dressing room, then you went and had a wild night in Brick Lane.
I know. What must everybody think of me?
They think that you're a good time gal.
Well, I have had a good time, and we hope that you had a good time listening to that interview. I really loved hearing Jack and Jordan's passion for continuing the legacy of variety theatre. And I think that meeting other people of a similar age to us, should I say, that also have a passion for the history of variety theatre and continuing it, I think was just so refreshing. And I think that when we meet people like them, you know that the legacy of variety theatre is in good hands.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of makes you go, phew, doesn't it? Because you know that it's not stopping with the older generations or, the generations that did it. You know that it's carrying on, which is nice.
Yeah. We hope that you enjoyed that episode too. And if you did, please let us know and leave us a 5-star review on any of the platforms that you listen on or on YouTube. Or don't forget to find us on social media. We always love to hear from you. And if you have got a Pipe Dream sequel in mind, then let us know, because we would absolutely love to hear all about them.
And remember, you can always get in touch with us on our SpeakPipe, www.speakpipe.com/twicenightlythepodcast.
All that's left for us to say is,
see you week next.
Da-da-da-da-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba.